You're watching Saturday Storytime, 9 January 2021 edition. Hi, welcome back to Saturday Storytime. Let's get started. So what is this molten ring that the Hubble Space Telescope saw? It's called an Einstein ring. This image is of this galaxy cluster 022058S. It's one of the largest and most complete Einstein rings ever discovered in our universe. It's described as a molten ring. Essentially, because this galaxy cluster is so big and so massive, it's acting as a gravitational lens. There's another galaxy, millions if not billions of light years behind this galaxy cluster, and the light from that galaxy is being bent as it's traveling past this massive galaxy cluster. Gravity bends the path of the light. Saurabh Jha is a professor of physics and astronomy at Rutgers University, and he's credited with this image. It was a collaborative effort with multiple observations from the Space Telescope. Light from the background galaxy has its trajectory bent by the gravity of the massive galaxy cluster. So we see multiple images of this background galaxy. This was first observed through a ground-based telescope, the Magellan telescopes at Las Campanas Observatory in Chile, but the image was rather blurry. So Hubble Space Telescope was employed to finish the job here. It's as if they're able to peer back through time billions of years ago and study this spiral galaxy. This gravitational lens lets them study this galaxy in much finer detail. It's January 2nd and the Earth is as close to the Sun as it can get in 2021. So the Earth is just 91,399,458 miles, or 0.98 astronomical units from the Sun. It's 3% closer than average, which means our planet receives more intense radiation and heat from the Sun. The Sun will also appear to be slightly larger in the daytime sky. This is called perihelion. Let's see if we're saying it right.
Perihelion.
Okay, perihelion. And it's the closest point of an orbit. All of the planets in the solar system have a slightly oval or elliptical orbit. This doesn't influence the temperature on Earth as much as the tilt of the Earth's axis. So in January, the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the Sun, and the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the Sun, due to the 23.4 degree angle of the Earth's axis. So when I read this headline, Quantum Teleportation, I thought that, wow, they can beam me up like in Star Trek, but with 99% accuracy, I'm not going to take that chance. But as we drill down what they're describing here as quantum teleportation, this is using qubits. Let's talk about this here a little bit. These qubits are introduced to one another and have their identities entangled. So this quantum entanglement, you have two particles where, regardless of the distance between them, in this case up to 44 kilometers, if you flip one qubit, the other qubit flips in response to that. They're proposing that this entanglement of qubits, it's possible to create this instantaneous communication across a great distance, and this could influence our global communications. It's an interesting read. Make sure to follow the link in the description down below to my blog, where you'll see all the URLs for the stories we're talking about. So I don't know if they really needed this big red arrow to point out this strange blue shape in the sky, but over Oahu, on December 30th at about 8:30 p.m., this large blue light traveled through the sky and then eventually appeared to land in the ocean near Oahu. There's no indication whether Tom DeLonge and his To the Stars Academy is going to be involved in the case. The FAA said there were no aircraft incidents or accidents at the time. but multiple witnesses reported seeing a large blue object fall out of the sky and into the ocean. Some of the residents responded like, "I look up and then I was like, oh bleep," and they frantically called each other, and the other person said, "Yeah, we saw it." So Oahu residents were perhaps thinking that aliens were coming to celebrate the end of 2020. My husband went to look up and he saw the white one coming. So a smaller white object appeared to follow in the same direction as the blue one. Previously, we had reported that part of the payload delivered to the International Space Station included radish seeds. A month ago, the astronauts harvested some of these radishes, but they had to send them all back to Earth. So this is the second crop of radish seeds that were grown over 27 days in the microgravity of orbit, and the crew got to eat 9 out of the 19 radishes they harvested. The crew on board International Space Station typically eats foods that have been turned into a paste, so the availability of fresh produce is very welcome. Of course, the astronauts are excited. It's most enjoyable when they get to eat something fresh. 19 radishes were harvested in the second crop aboard the space station, and the crew was allowed to eat 9. The other 10 radishes are frozen for analysis on the Earth. These radishes are grown in a bed of clay balls that retain moisture and fertilizer with artificial light simulating the sun. This is a great article that you'll want to go to my blog, look for the link in the description down below, and get the URL to this article, because it's essentially the 2021 list of celestial event highlights. We've got glimpses of Venus as it passes behind the sun. You're going to see Mars is going to come into play. July, the planets Venus and Mars will have a conjunction. Here we get to see Mercury, a couple of lunar eclipses, a solar eclipse, and a meteor shower. So stay tuned. It's always good to get advance notice of these celestial events. I like articles that say, hey, last night there was a cool celestial event. So you don't really get an opportunity to appreciate it if you can't see it. Here's an interesting story. The Earth is spinning faster than at any time in the past 50 years. The Earth's rotation is faster than normal, and the length of the day is ever so slightly shorter than the regular 24 hours. Timekeepers are now debating whether they want to delete a second to account for the change. This would be a negative leap second, and it's never been done before. A total of 27 leap seconds have been added since the 1970s in order to keep time on the atomic clock in time with solar time. The Earth has been taking slightly longer than 24 hours to complete a rotation, but since last year it's been taking slightly less time. We can see this graph. July 19th was apparently the shortest day in a long time. On July 19th, 2020, the day was 1.46 milliseconds shorter than the full 24 hours. Prior to 2020, the shortest day occurred in 2005, but that record has been shattered a staggering 28 times in the last 12 months. Now, these leap seconds that they've added have caused problems in the past. In 2012, popular websites, Reddit, Foursquare, Yelp, LinkedIn, Gawker, and StumbledUpon were crashed due to having this extra second added to the clock. So there's an international discussion about the future of leap seconds, and it's possible they might actually decide to stop adding or taking away leap seconds for good. If you're a fan of Knight Rider, KITT's going to be on the auction block. Also, the Hoff is going to be up for grabs. That's a giant replica of David Hasselhoff that was used in the SpongeBob movie. So let's talk about KITT, the car, first. Of course, this is from the mid-80s to early 90s TV series Knight Rider. And it's going to go on auction on the 24th of January. And they're expecting it to garner between $175,000 and $300,000 if the bidding price exceeds 25% of the $975,000 reserve price. David Hasselhoff will personally deliver the vehicle. Okay, so let's look at the Hoff here. Again, this is a frightening 14-foot tall David Hasselhoff from the SpongeBob movie. This auction will open on the 23rd of January, and it's expected to draw between $700,000 and $1.5 million. The current bid is now at $975,000. I don't know what anybody would do with a 14-foot Hoff. This is a great breakthrough with a lot of potential. Oxford scientists have created carbon-neutral jet fuel from CO2. Aviation is responsible for about 2% of man-made CO2 emissions. Chemists at the University of Oxford have created a cheap, potentially carbon-neutral jet fuel from CO2 that can be used in conventional jet engines. So this team successfully converted CO2 gas directly into jet fuel using inexpensive iron-based catalysts. There have been previous successful attempts, but they were very complex and expensive chemicals. This new method can produce competitively priced fuel that could potentially eliminate high emission burden of air travel. This method involves using CO2 captured from the air, which is converted with hydrogen using a process called hydrogenation, and a catalyst made from a compound of iron, manganese, and potassium to produce specific hydrocarbons. It's more economical and environmentally acceptable compared to indirect methods. The smaller number of processes makes it more efficient and lowers the cost. And not to be outdone, researchers at Rutgers University have created this 3D printed smart gel that changes shape when exposed to light. This is inspired through color-changing cells that octopus have called chromatophores. Yes, here, inspired by color-changing skin of cuttlefish, octopuses, and squids, the Rutgers engineers have created a 3D printed smart gel that changes shape when exposed to light. They've also developed a stretchy material that can reveal colors when the light changes. This is modeled after the amazing ability of cephalopods to change color and texture of their skin for camouflage and communication. So this could have broad-ranging applications, including flexible electronic displays. All right, facial recognition can now see through face masks. Of course, we all know what the current era is and why we're wearing masks, so we're not going to mention that. But the Department of Homeland Security is piloting a facial recognition technology that can see through face masks, and there's a promising level of accuracy. The trials were organized as part of a yearly biometric technology rally organized by the Science and Technology Directorate. That's the research and development branch of the Department of Homeland Security. 60 facial recognition configurations tested, 600 volunteers from 60 different countries. Mix and match of 6 different image collection systems, 10 different matching algorithms. And they were evaluated on criteria ranging from the ability to snap a picture when presented with a human face to the reliability of the identification process. The usual artificial intelligence facial recognition systems can correctly identify unmasked individuals at a rate of 93%, and during their experiments here, they reached an identification rate of masked individuals of 77%. Privacy is always an interesting topic on StoryTime, so stay tuned. Mars has the largest canyon in the solar system. It's 18 miles wide, 4,000 feet deep on average. It's called Valles Marineris. Let's see if I'm saying that right.
Valles Marineris.
Valles Marineris. This is roughly 10 times longer and 5 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. The breathtaking close-up images of Valles Marineris were recently released by the University of Arizona to put these statistics into perspective. As they look at these images, it's going to help them understand how this gigantic chasm formed. It's still a mystery. There was not enough water on Mars to have this kind of erosion effect. The theory right now is that the Mars crust was ripped open billions of years ago by magma swells. A neighboring area called Tharsis Bulge is home to the solar system's largest volcano, Olympus Mons. And this became engorged with magma, stretching and ripping the landscape, eventually caused this massive rift. It does appear that landslides and ancient rivers have continued to sculpt Valles Marineris after it was ripped open. Getting better looks at small details will give them the ability to fine-tune their ideas about how Valles Marineris came to be. If you're a fan of Storytime, you might want to check out ST-StoryTime. It's my shorts channel. Shorts are 30-second to 1 minute long videos, and I'm doing a more humorous preview of these stories than we do in the actual Storytime. So it sort of lets you know what's coming up, and you also have access to the full Storytime playlist where you can just hit play all and go through Storytime end to end. So check it out. Thank you for watching Shitoku Tech. Please subscribe, comment, like, and share.